Hi there, this is Aviation Adventures with Captain Ron. I'm going to talk about a little bit about UPS 2976, and sometimes it's just not your day. Now, not to make light of a horrific situation and to diminish the people who were killed here, but sometimes you just don't make it out of a situation alive. As the old saying is, sometimes you eat the bear, and sometimes the bear eats you. Now, I spent most of my aviation career with the airlines involved in certification, flight test, and also safety matters. So, as I've said before on these, until the final report is out, speculation is very dangerous, and I'll talk about that in just a second in one of the accidents I talk about here. But we know a few things initially. Obviously, the number one engine separated. Now, okay, there's another accident. I'll talk about this. Engines can separate and the aircraft can survive. It has happened. And okay, we look at this initially. The engine is separating. Okay, it's not like American Airlines 191 where the slats had to stay out with hydraulic power. Now the flap slats have been improved such that they lock out, and it takes hydraulic pressure to bring them back in. So you're not gonna lose the lift. You're not gonna stall if you're flying at V2, and you're gonna be okay. So if the engine separates cleanly, you actually have a chance of making it. As you know, as horrific as that may sound, you do have a chance of making it. And here we got a little bit of flame. Well, what's the flame coming from? The fuel coming out of the lines in the engine, or something more serious? Well, the engine did not come off cleanly. Unfortunately, it damaged the wing, which is fairly obvious from the video. And the nice thing about this is we have a lot more good video than we did back in '79 with American Airlines 191. But you can see the wing is totally engulfed in flame here. So their chances of survival were extremely diminished at this point. Now, you can argue, could they have made it? They still had two engines. Uh, Center engine, they'll find out if it was compromised. It probably didn't matter at this point because the wing is basically just on fire and probably will structurally fail here in a very short time. And as we've seen from the videos that are ubiquitous, uh, they didn't make it. It was not survivable, and it was a terrible accident. A lot of people off the end of the runway were also killed, in addition to the three pilots. Now, like I said, this is very similar to American Airlines 191 back in '79, and I want to wait till everything gets out. I know there's a lot of people out there who will jump to conclusions, and they know what's wrong and that stuff, and just that's not the way accident investigations are done. You got to get all the data in, because for those of you who remember, we had Langhorne Bond. Now, I'm from Illinois, not originally. I'm from Iowa, but I live in Illinois now and have most of my life. But Langhorne Bond, our one claim to fame in the transportation department, he's got the bolt here. They found this bolt on the runway, and this is it. The bolt failed. That's it. Well, we got to inspect these bolts because the bolt failed. Well, what they found out is that bolt at the back attach point here, well, that wasn't really the problem. But what they did was they grounded all the DC-10s, and they said, we got to inspect it. We got to inspect this bolt. Well, they used the same unauthorized maintenance procedure of using a forklift to remove the engine and pylon together. And you've just got very thin margins here, and they were overstressing the bolt and the attach point and everything like that. So by inspecting the bolts on the aircraft that hadn't crashed, they were essentially risking perpetuating the problem with the failed joint. Now, what we have on the MD-11 here is we have a different assembly here, and we have a lug, and as you can see, this thing is definitely fractured. Well, the airplane was a long time from actually needing to inspect this. So, okay, was it a metallurgical failure? Was it a maintenance failure? We don't know. It'll take a while to find out, and the way accident investigation work is the initial thoughts are usually invariably wrong. So just wait and see what happens. But was this a death sentence, losing the engine? Well, like I said, it's happened before, and as captain, I would ask my, second officer, first officer, depending on the airplane, did you notice this on the walk around that something was missing? And of course, if you take the number of engines, divide by 4, and you come up with a fraction, you know you got a problem. But here is we have a case where engines have separated. In fact, we had a case where 2 have separated on this side, and the aircraft was able to be recovered. And of course, here is a situation. Now, these were 707s, and these were very robustly built aircraft because we're entering the jet age, and Boeing didn't know for sure how strong to make these things, so they're a little bit over designed. You know, there's a later comment about the MD-90, and some of the people building it called it Reynolds wrap because they thought things were cut a little too thin. That was some of the production people on the line, but I digress. But anyway, here you could have an engine separation, a fire, and destroy a good section of the wing, and they came back. Unfortunately, on UPS, this was not the result. And, you know, if it would separate cleanly, would this design even allow that? Because typically we do not want to think that an engine is going to fail in this manner and separate. So it probably was not part of the design criteria. And unfortunately, it resulted in a number of additional deaths. But anyway, that's some comments on engine separations and initial comments on the UPS crash. Thanks for watching.